Assalamu alaikum. This is Shauruk Mujumdar welcoming you to the English news from Btv-Chattogram. Let's begin with the top stories. Appeal hearing against cancellation of nomination papers in 13th national polls held for final day. "13th National Parliament polls to be most impartial in history," says Home Affairs advisor. July fighters played role in protecting sovereignty like freedom fighters of 1971, says BNP chairman Tariq Rahman. Verdict in corruption case against 18, including former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, to be announced on February 2nd. European leaders condemn Trump's threat to impose tariffs on countries opposing occupation of Greenland. And Bangladesh beat United States by 21 runs in T20 Women's World Cup qualifiers in Nepal. Those were the top stories. Now moving on to the details. The ninth and final day of hearing of appeals against the decision to accept and cancel the nomination papers of returning officers in the 13th National Parliament election has been held at the Election Commission. The appeal hearing began at 10 a.m. at the conference room of the Agargaon Election Commission in the capital under the chairmanship of Chief Election Commissioner A.M.M. Nasiruddin. According to the schedule announced by the EC, the proceedings ended with the disposal of appeals from serial numbers 611 to 645 and the appeals that were previously pending for verdict on the last day of hearing today. Earlier, on the 8th day of hearing yesterday, the Commission had a total of 112 applications. Out of these, 45 appeals were granted. The EC rejected 37 appeals. Out of these, 13 applications against cancellation of nomination papers and 24 applications against acceptance were rejected. In addition, 9 appeal applications were withdrawn during the hearing and 2 appellants were absent. A total of 645 appeals were filed with the Election Commission against the decision to reject and accept nomination papers in this election. On January 4th, the last day of selection of nomination papers, returning officers declared 1,842 nomination papers valid and 723 nomination papers invalid out of a total of 2,568 nomination papers in 300 constituencies. Home Affairs advisor retired Lieutenant General Jahangir Alam Chaudhary said the police force must work with the utmost professionalism in holding the upcoming national elections in the most fair and impartial manner in history. He said this at the training closing parade of the 41st BCS Police Batch of Trainee Assistant Superintendents of Police at the Bangladesh Police Academy in Sardar of Rajshahi today. A total of 96 trainees participated in the parade organized at the parade ground of the academy. Addressing the new police officers, the Home Affairs advisor said the people do not expect police that create fear, but rather service-oriented, polite and humane police. Foreign advisor Mohammad Tawhid Hussain said several challenges remain to achieving complete peace in the Chattogram Hill Tracts, and the interim government is working to resolve these issues. He added that a set of recommendations are also being prepared so that the next government can carry the process forward. Tawhid Hussain made the remarks today at the site office of the Konifuli Tunnel in Chattogam's Anwara while speaking at the 11th meeting of the Chattogram Hill Tracts Accord Implementation and Monitoring Committee. Chattogram Hill Tracts Affairs Advisor Shupradip Chakma, Parbotto Chattogram Jonashanghoti Samiti leader Shontu Larma and other members of the committee presented their views on the implementation of the accord. BNP chairperson Tariq Rahman has urged everyone to remain vigilant about those who seek to turn the movement to protect independence into a matter of party interests. He made the remarks today as the chief guest at a meeting organized by the BNP at the Krishibit Institution in the capital, where views were exchanged with the families of martyrs and injured of the 2024 mass uprising. He said that, like the freedom fighters of 1971, the July fighters also played a role in safeguarding sovereignty. He stated that the July mass uprising was not a movement of any individual, group or party. Rather, it was genuinely a mass movement of democracy-seeking people who had been deprived of their rights. Tariq Rahman further said that the upcoming national parliamentary election is extremely important for establishing a safe and democratic Bangladesh and must not be allowed to fail. The event was presided over by BNP Standing Committee member Nazrul Islam Khan and the party's senior Joint Secretary General, Advocate Ruhul Kabir Rizvi, was present. In connection with the killing of 9 people, including students Farhan Fayaz and Mahmudur Rahman Shoikat during the July mass uprising in Mohammadpur in the capital, the International Crimes Tribunal 1 has taken cognizance of charges against 28 people, including Sheikh Fazle Nur Taposh and Jahangir Kabir Nanuk. At the same time, the tribunal has issued arrest warrants against 24 absconding accused and directed law enforcement agencies to produce them before the tribunal by January 29th. Tribunal 1, headed by Justice Gulamurtuja Mujumdar, passed the order today. The remaining 4 accused in the case are currently under arrest in separate cases. Later, Chief Prosecutor Muhammad Tajul Islam briefed journalists saying that the prosecution has brought 3 charges against the 28 accused. Meanwhile, Tribunal 1 has directed that the investigation report in the enforced disappearance case against ousted Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, former Home Minister Asaduzzaman Khan Kamal, former Army Officer Ziaullah Hassan, and other accused be completed and submitted by March 25th. On the other hand, at Tribunal 2, defense witness testimony was recorded in the case involving the killing of 7 people, including the burning of 6 bodies in Ashulia of Sabur. Later, in the same tribunal, a hearing was held on framing formal charges against 7 people, including Awami League General Secretary Abdul Qadir, in a crimes against humanity case against the banned Awami League. The verdict in the corruption case involving a total of 18 people, including former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, nephew Redwan Mujib Siddiq Bobby, and his sister Tulip Siddiq, who fled to India during the July uprising, will be announced on February 2nd. After hearing arguments at the 4th Special Judges Court in the capital today, Judge Rabiul Alam set the date for the verdict. Advocate Hafizur Rahman, representing the ACC, presented his arguments and expected the maximum sentence of life for the accused. On the other hand, his lawyer, representing the only accused in prison, Khurshid Alam, claimed that the ACC could not prove it, so Khurshid should be acquitted. Since the remaining 17 accused are absconding, they could not present their arguments in their own defense or through lawyers. After the change of power on August 5, 2024, various allegations of irregularities and corruption during the Awami League era came to light. In this context, the ACC filed 6 cases in January 2025 on charges of allocating a 60-kotha plot in the Purvachal New City project of Rajuk. Of these, 3 cases involving Sheikh Hasina's family have already been decided. BNP Chairman Tariq Rahman is coming to Chattogram on January 25th. He will join the BNP-led rally at the city's historic polo ground that day. Chattogram City Mayor Dr. Shadat Hussain visited the rally venue at the polo ground today. During the visit, the mayor inquired about the overall condition of the ground, stage setup, entry and exit routes, cleanliness, security and necessary infrastructural preparations. He provided necessary directions to the concerned so that the leaders, activists and the public coming to the rally can participate without any hindrance. The city mayor called for everyone's cooperation to hold their rally peacefully and in an orderly manner. Leaders and activists of different levels of the metropolitan BNP were present at the time. Now international news. A threat by President Donald Trump to impose fresh tariffs on 8 allies opposed to his proposed takeover of Greenland has drawn condemnation from European leaders. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer said the move was completely wrong, while French President Emmanuel Macron called it unacceptable. The comments came after Trump announced a 10% tariff on goods from Denmark, Norway, Sweden, France, Germany, the UK, the Netherlands and Finland would come into force on 1st of February, but could later rise to 25% and would last until a deal was reached. Trump insists the autonomous Danish territory is critical for US security and has not ruled out taking it by force. France, Germany, Sweden, Norway, Finland, the Netherlands and the UK have dispatched a small number of troops to Greenland in a so-called reconnaissance mission. Announcing the new tariffs in a post on his Truth social platform on Saturday, Trump said those countries were playing a very dangerous game. At stake, he said, was the safety, security and survival of our planet. Meanwhile, thousands of people took to the streets in Greenland and Denmark on Saturday in protest at the proposed US takeover. In the Danish capital, Copenhagen, placards were held up reading "Hands off Greenland" and "Greenland for Greenlanders." In Nuuk, Greenland's Prime Minister Jens Frederik Nielsen joined protesters holding signs reading "Greenland is not for sale and we shape our future" as they headed for the US consulate. Opinion polls suggest 85% of Greenlanders oppose the territory joining the US. Iranian capital Tehran has been comparatively quiet for 4 days. Several residents told news agencies that drones were flying over the city, but there were no signs of major protests on Thursday or Friday. A resident of a northern city on the Caspian Sea said the streets there also appeared calm. The protests erupted on December 28th over economic hardship and swelled into widespread demonstrations. The internet monitoring group NetBlocks posted on X that metrics show a very slight rise in internet connectivity in Iran this morning after 200 hours of shutdown. It said connectivity remained around 2% of ordinary levels. A few Iranians overseas said on social media that they had been able to message users living inside Iran early on Saturday. Iran's supreme leader has, for the first time, publicly acknowledged that thousands of people were killed during recent protests. In a speech on Saturday, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei said thousands had been killed, some in an inhuman, savage manner, and blamed the US for the deaths. A violent response to the unrest has claimed 3,090 lives, according to US-based Iranian human rights activists news agency Raater, with some activist groups putting the death toll far higher. An internet blockout has made it extremely difficult to get clear information. US President Donald Trump has recently urged Iranian demonstrators to keep protesting and threatened military intervention if security forces kill them. United States President Donald Trump invited the leaders of Egypt and Turkey to join his board of peace to oversee the post-war transition in Gaza. The board is expected to supervise the temporary governance of the Gaza Strip under the US president's plan to end Israel's genocidal war against Palestinians in the besieged territory. A Turkish presidential spokesperson posted on social media on Saturday that President Recep Tayyip Erdogan received an invitation from Trump a day earlier to become a founding member of the board. Separately, Egypt's Foreign Minister Badr Adleti said at a news conference on Saturday that the country was reviewing a separate invitation from Trump to Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi to join the board. The White House on Friday announced several members of a founding executive board for Gaza, which has been reeling from more than 2 years of Israeli military bombardment and restrictions on humanitarian aid deliveries. That executive board, to be chaired by Trump, includes U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, President Donald Trump's special envoy Steve Witkoff, former British Prime Minister Tony Blair, and Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner. It also includes Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan, United Arab Emirates Minister of State for International Cooperation Reem al-Hashimi, veteran Qatari diplomat Ali al-Thawadi, Egypt's intelligence chief Hassan Rashad, Cypriot Israeli businessman Yakir Gabay, and Dutch politician Sigrid Kaag. Now news on sports. Cricket. Bangladesh defeated the United States by 21 runs in their first match of the ICC Women's T20 World Cup qualifiers in Mulpani of Nepal today. The United States won the toss and put Bangladesh in to bat first. Bangladesh scored 158 for 5 in the stipulated 20 overs. Chasing a target of 159 runs to win, the United States scored 137 for 9 in their 20 overs. Sharmin Akhtar scored 63 runs off 39 balls with 8 fours and a 6. Sabana Mustari also scored 29 runs off 29 balls with 2 fours and a 6. Medium pacer Ishani Bhagela took 2 wickets for 24 runs. BPL. Rangpur Riders won by 8 wickets with 2 balls in hand against Noakhali Express in the first match of the day in BPL. After losing the toss in Mirpur, Noakhali Express elected to bat first and scored 173 runs for 2 wickets in the stipulated 20 overs. Hassan Isakil scored an unbeaten 107 runs. In reply, Rangpur reached the victory mark by 2 wickets in 19 overs and 4 balls. Tawhid Hridoy played a brilliant innings of 109 runs in 63 balls. Chasing the target of 174 runs, Hridoy attacked from the start. Opener David Malan returned to the dressing room after scoring 15 runs in 17 balls, breaking the opening partnership of 78 runs. Tawhid Hridoy scored a 50 in 27 balls and reached the century in 57 balls. In total, this opener scored 109 runs in 63 balls.